Okay, it's been a bit because I haven't been making videos. So this is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be a quick update, but it's going to be an update nevertheless. And I said that I was going to put this series to bed. And as you can see, that didn't work out very well. So I decided, well, I was puttering around in the Lego room to make some changes or additions to my theme. So you've seen the flatbed, you've seen the air carrier, you've seen the habitats-ish, you've seen the corridors, and you've even seen my little guy. So a little moon rover. So this is the basic moon rover. You know, again, these things come out as outriggers for whatever. So, but I also wanted to make a forklift. So I made a forklift edition. Now it's not the best because I only have a 1x2 Technic brick with one hole. So, I mean, it does swivel, but it is a friction peg and it does stay locked in there pretty good. I was trying to figure out how to get it better locked in there so it doesn't tilt. But in the end, it's for display overall. I mean, yes, I wanted to make this series for an actual bona fide Lego theme, space theme, but in the end, this is fine. But when I made that guy, I wanted to make flatbeds. Now this is good, again, very, very derivative and very, very, you know, whatever, not that inspired. But it's inspired enough for a crate. I don't have enough click hinges or any other type of orange hinges for this thing to open up. I might change that, but I also made it so you can make them into a train. So there's a magnet in the front, there's a magnet in the back, so you can get a whole train of these things going across the landscape, carrying your things, right? And even if you have to put this one in the very back, and then there it goes. So that was fun. You know, it was quick, it was easy, it wasn't a lot of thought into it, but it adds to the theme of mobile moon base. Oh, I always forget this thing. Mobile modular moon base technicians. I should write that down somewhere. And so there's mobile and it's modular and it's you know, for moon base. So there you go. So that was one update that I made. The other one I was really working a lot of time on was to try to figure out how to make some sort of magnet crane that didn't remind me of the M-Tron, the Megacore magnetizer. This is kind of a derivative of Megacore magnetizer. And I mean, it does this job. Let me see if I can find a piece here. Oh, let's take this one off the cab. You know, and picks up and, you know, puts it wherever it has to go. I came up with a small version thereof, and that was for, oops. And you probably saw it in another video. Let's get this thing straight. Come in. Straight. There we go. You saw it in this guy, where this goes in the front like that, right? And then this picks this thing up. Of course, it falls over, so that's why I had to make the outriggers. You know, there's always music when you're working. Put the radio on. So, and it goes up here. I do find some of my click hinges to be very, shall we say, loose. But, you know, that does a good job. And so this thing would come in and be able to put this thing on a flatbed, you know. So there's, you know, it's actually mechanical mechanics. So, I mean, it's an idea and it works and I'm going to keep it. So, but I was thinking about how to train off the big pieces, the corridors and stuff. And so I was trying to come up with something, and I started with this idea. So it was an idea where this thing would just expand like that. So it'd be off the flatbed. Well, this thing would be connected onto a flatbed like this. So it has magnets on the bottom and it goes into the flatbed like that. So all of a sudden this thing is carrying around this crane apparatus, shall we say, apparatus. And you have two of them together, two flatbeds carrying the crane parts together. And then what happens is that the other crane would come in. So there's a little bit of a trick here. So you got the two axle pins and a little lever here. That's, again, not the strongest, and that's why I kind of gave up on this whole idea. I mean, I could make that stronger somehow. But, and then they would come together like this, right? And then you see, so now this is one big solid piece, right? And then what would happen is that the flatbeds themselves, this is why I didn't like these tires, the flatbeds themselves would be far enough apart, because there would be one on this side and be one on this side. And the issue then comes, how does this thing go up and down, right? And I was thinking of a whole variety of ideas, including, let me grab one. I had one out, but I don't know where I put it. Here it is. Including having something like this, where, you know, this thing, it's a geared piston, so that it would be coming down, and so you would either motorize it, and this would lift this thing up, and then it would go over and then pick up. Oh. That was fun. Sorry about that. My camera was off center. So this thing would like lift up and then be able to put things down. And I said that's a good idea. I mean, this thing worked mechanically sound, and the connection here in the middle was fine, but it was just too complicated. It wasn't going the way I wanted to, and then trying to get this thing up and down with these things, like 4 or 5 of them, and up and down, and then having it span across with an axle going through here that would connect all these things connected. It just got way too convoluted for me, so I gave up on it. But I did like this idea of using these orange things, because I liked axle force and blah blah blah, and that's where I got most of mine for that. And I like the idea of using the old rack and gear, the gear train, rack and pinion. It's just a rack basically, because it's not steering for a car. Just a rack idea that came from out of Blacktron 1 and Futuron, the monorail, where you use these guys, these 2x4x2 8-tooth gear inside there. I don't think you see it. There it is. And then this rack here. I always like this one for basically simple things like this. But again, so how was I going to incorporate that into a crane? And I thought, well, I'm doing this kind of backwards. I'm making this thing go back and forth, and that was great for the connection. And when you're putting the other one on the other end, right? This thing. Well, if I was doing this worked perfectly well, right? That's done. It's locked, right? And then these things would be able to expand way out there. That's not going to go back in properly. But in the end, this thing was meant to be stationary on the vehicle, and the actual crane portion that extends was supposed to come out here. So this is the exact opposite. So I played around with that, and I came up with this guy. Now this guy doesn't look like much out off the flatbed, and again, there's a lot of old sheets in here. I got weight bricks in the back because this thing's very, very heavy. And basically at the bottom is nothing to talk about until you put it on a flatbed. So this thing just completely locks into the flatbed, and everything serves a purpose right now. So the thing's on the flatbed now, right? So these things come up like that, and now you're going to the job site. Going to the job site. When these things are down and the outriggers are down like this, so the outriggers are down. I needed a way because of the folding of the outriggers themselves. So let's just look at that for a second, and this thing's not going to turn very well while it's down. Looking at the outriggers themselves, there's a. I'll show this guy. Put this aside. For this thing to go up and down like that, you have a click hinge here. And then you have a gap here because this thing has to go straight up. And let's see if I can show you in the front. So there's hardly any support here, right? So if you were to put any like force on this thing, it comes off. Especially if these things are outrigged, right? And so and then things would just pop up like that. So they're pretty useless outriggers for anything that's heavy. So I had to come up with an idea, and I was trying to figure out how to incorporate that into the flatbed, and I couldn't, because in the end, the only time I really needed it was when the crane's on it. So I incorporated the locking mechanism into the actual crane portion of it. So the crane itself has these guys. And these guys come down. And they have that little piece right here, which fits exactly into this little space right here. This 2 by, you know, this 2 stud opening. So when you put this thing on here, and it fits right in there, so it fits snugly. These things come down. Oops. These things come down, right? So all of a sudden, now the outriggers can't go up anymore, which is fine, because when you're at a job site, you don't want them to come up anymore, right? So now the outriggers are very much locked in the popping up. They can't pop up anymore. And that's what you want. When this thing's locked down using the crane, which is the heaviest thing I've ever built for these things so far. Let me see if I can tilt this down a little bit more. You don't want these things to pop up. So let's look at that. So the outriggers are fine now when these things are down. When these things are up, oops, sure, while I'm on TV, while I'm recording this, while these things are up, of course the outriggers can come up, right? That's what you want. You want to be able to move around. But when the outriggers are down and these things fold over, you want the outriggers to stay exactly where they are. Now, I did make it, the tolerances, well, maybe a little too stupid, because I went right out to where the other pieces for the carrying the habitats around, just for strength purposes, like this is strong now. And because it's got to carry 3 weight bricks and it's got to carry this entire crane. And so when you're at a job site, here it is. And then I really cheated on the lifting mechanism. Like I just went completely old school on this. And if you look at a lot of sets from the 70s and 80s, that's it. It has like axles coming down, and the axles just mesh into the rack. So I was going to make a whole Technic train of gears and worm gears and all that stuff to raise and lower this. But then you're spending all this time turning the crank to raise and lower this, going with all the other cranes that have ever come out, unless you want to go pneumatics. And I didn't want to bring pneumatics into this at all. Even if you're going to use this guy for raising and lowering this thing. I mean, I could potentially do that in the future. I mean, this was, again, something I threw together last night, thinking about it. But I mean, I could take the smaller version of this and put it in there to, you know, just raise and lower this thing. But this is perfectly acceptable right now. So it's ta-da, and then you just put it away and it goes down, right? So it's a cheat. It's 100% cheat, but it's what I wanted to do, and it was quick and efficient. And I got the big, huge Technic gear, the turntable, and you know, with the weight, it's all balanced. So, oh, this thing came off. That's one thing I'm noticing. Sometimes it comes off, and I want to fix that. I just don't know yet. But anyway, so the crane mechanism itself. So now we're gonna lift this thing up. The crane mechanism itself goes up exactly the same way as the other one. So you turn the rack, and it goes all the way, extends. Now, the other thing I thought about, let me just get this thing up here now. The other thing I thought about is I don't need it to be this long, but I like it that long. Because I could just get rid of one of these and just use one and just have the thing sticking out the back. Maybe I'll do that, making it smaller, because I do have a weight issue with this thing, and an extend issue, and Universe, and the mobile modular moon base technician Universe. You don't need this thing to be like way out there. It's not necessary at all, because basically you are just moving these guys, right? That's it. so with that, you know, you don't need to go stupid high. Whoops. Now the problem is it's just too high because this thing just catches. You don't need this thing to go stupid high, but you know, for a test, I wanted this thing to go stupid high. So I also had to, you know, distribute the weight allocation. Oh, this thing broke when it fell. Let me fix that. I've had a problem with a few modules. The magnets, you know, they're not the best. You give it a jar and it falls off. I'm not saying it's like the ISD falling apart back in the day, but you know, this thing does have a tendency of falling down. But this thing can be fully extended now, right? even to the point where basically if I can do this without me letting it fall. There you go. So look how far out that is. So the outriggers are actually doing something right now. If the outriggers were up, that thing would be flopping over, right? And I can show that to you. So I can do this, lift it up, and the thing falls over, lifts off. So it's much better with the outriggers in a stationary position. Let me just get back in here and put this back down. Try to do it this one hand. Oops, this thing came off again. And I'm starting to get used to this thing. So there you go. So now the outriggers are back on. I'll put that this high, and you can see it's lifting a lot of weight. But you know, with the weights in the back and the fact that I got the outriggers here, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is carrying, you know, corridors around and setting up corridors. So I'm happy with this crane now. For something that was quicker than the 2 weeks I spent in the last one and tried various things. This thing took me a night. There was some minor modifications and adding more weight to it just to find the right balance between weight and what I wanted it to do. But in the end, it's doing exactly what I wanted to do. And then you can just lower this thing into place where it's supposed to go when they're setting up the moon base. Tickety-boo. So, I'm working camera at the same time. I like it. I like the, I won't say the simplicity, but the hearkening back to older type of cranes back in the day in the 80s when they used to do that, especially in those alternate builds. Using the rack for holding the crane at various positions. I may use the geared piston to do it, but right now that was extremely easy for me to set up. I couldn't believe how easy that was for me to set up. And the idea that this thing goes, you know, wherever you want it to. You know, it's good for a show. It's sort of good for kids playing if this thing was again ever made into a set. It's good for kids playing, but I think at a show it's going to be spectacular, and it's going to look like it's supposed to look like, which is, you know, a mobile moon base mechanic. I mean, yeah, modular moon base. Mobile modular moon base technicians. I just gotta write that down somewhere. maybe in the sheet of paper right here. Get my Cricut to print something out. So the crane I'm happy with, and as I said, it fits right into the flatbed, which is I wanted to. I had to modify it. I didn't have to, but I modified the flatbed one more time by putting flat tiles in the bottom here, and that's just so these things, you know, these things basically just fit right on top of that. So there's basically no air voids inside this thing when this thing's down. Okay. You know, so in the end, I like it. It's doing what I wanted it to do. It looks good. It looks like it's supposed to be there. I'm happy with it. I might make another, because again, when you're moving the corridors is one thing, but moving the actual buildings is something else. So I might need 2 of these, but or I just might not do it at all and not even worry about it. because I mean, I really enjoyed this build, but I don't think I'm going to enjoy making 2 of them. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so that's an update, 20-minute update for you of the series that I was creating, the theme that I was creating, that I said I was going to put to bed, but I didn't bother because I decided to build more. And the Lego room is staying relatively clean while I'm doing it, which is making me happy. Everybody take care. I don't know how many more videos. I'm going to be making a lot less videos, I think, going forward. Maybe 1 a week or something, just because I'm focused on the family and doing other things. And summer's here, and I spent all weekend working on the trailer. So that's it. You guys all take care, stay safe, and I will talk to you soon.